You are now listening to Carlie's Couch with Lextopia
and CC Fierce. This week, we talk about what mindfulness is and how to build a practice that works for your life. Happy Monday, happy whatever day it is that you're listening to us.
Thanks for listening to us. We appreciate you being here, and we have another good episode for you.
If you are not, please subscribe to us on YouTube, on iTunes, and if you feel so generous, leave us a 5-star review.
Yeah, we do need to read some more reviews, so we'd like to get some so we can read them. So put in there the things that you've gotten out of the show. Put in there what your favorite episodes are. Always feel free to comment on an episode because we do respond to those as well. Shout out to Earl. Mm-hmm. And on YouTube too. Sometimes people leave interesting comments on YouTube, which I appreciate as well. So we appreciate all the love and want you to continue to show it.
Yep. And that's actually what our episode is for today. There's always so much going on in the world. Right now, it feels like there's even more and things are starting to bubble over or have been. And so today we're going to talk about mindfulness, but not in the traditional sense of how we usually talk about mindfulness. I feel like mindfulness is something that we address on the podcast often. And we've even practiced before. We almost got taken out whenever a picture behind us fell on us. It's like one of the first few episodes that we did. But I wanted to think about ways that we can create a mindfulness practice in our lives. Recently was just thinking about it, and like I said, mindfulness is something we talk about, but not necessarily how to do it or things to consider whenever you're building a practice.
Yeah, so when you think about mindfulness, what are the first things that come to mind for you? If you're like me, my first thought is meditation. And immediately I would think, okay, this is around, when should I meditate, how to meditate, and why? But talking to Carlie about it, really mindfulness practice is just about practicing being present. And I don't think that really does have to be, just put in the box of just meditation. There's other things you can do and be considered practicing mindfulness, right?
Yeah, exactly. Everybody, whenever I say mindfulness, I think probably almost everyone pictures probably a little Buddha figure or somebody sitting down in lotus or cross-legged position with their hands, the thumb and the finger touching. If you're watching the video, you can see me doing it. But if you're not, I'm explaining it for you. But that is not the only part of a mindfulness practice. Mindfulness is anything that brings you to the present moment. And a lot of people, they can do mindful walking, mindful reading, mindful journaling, mindful eating even. There's ways to just fully enhance your present moment by bringing all of your senses and your awareness here. So that's really what mindfulness is the practice of bringing yourself to the present moment.
So being mindful is synonymous with being present. Would you say that?
I don't know if I would say that. That's an interesting thing to think about synonymous. I think that being mindful is a way to bring you back to the present moment whenever you notice that you might not be here or might be distracted or might not fully be present. I think mindfulness is a practice to bring you back, or a practice of being present.
But if you're mindful, you're present. Is that not right? I guess, and maybe that could be an oversimplification. And that's what I'm kind of trying to do is just understand, all right, when I'm being present, I'm being mindful because I'm being mindful of what's happening right now. I'm being mindful of my surroundings. I'm being mindful of the present by being present. Excuse me, I had something all in my throat. So, I think that we think about that most with meditation because we feel like you have to be super quiet, super still, and that it's supposed to be time to have conversation with yourself in some type of way. But to your point, when you go running and you get into automatic, that can be something that is, just feeling good in that moment of movement. Probably you would say with yoga that has total mindfulness aspects to it, right? Isn't that the point of yoga?
Yeah, or? It's to bring you into your body.
So feeling how my body feels at the present time as well?
Yeah, it is. So yoga is people think about yoga and they always associate it, I would say more so with meditation and things, with when yoga is just supposed to bring you back into that. It's the sister science for Ayurveda, which is food and different practices about your body. This is a very oversimplification of Ayurveda, but it's a practice of your actual body. And so yoga is more for your mind.
And then I think I was trying to connect it to being present and what that definition really means outside of saying mindfulness in other terms that may be new to some people. Because with anything that we say we want to practice or do, I feel that it's important to have some type of an outcome in mind, or like, what's my end goal, right? Like, if I'm being mindful, what am I doing it for? Not just for like, what does that make me feel right now? Like, it may, comfort you, make you feel less stressed, etc. But like, how do I know when I've like gotten to this end point, or is there an end point?
I don't think there is. Just like this journey to personal development and self-growth and self-love, I think it's a lifelong journey. And we're here for as long as we're here. We're in this journey, hopefully, working to become our best selves. I think the outcome then, I
think there still could be an outcome.
Oh, no, absolutely. But I was about to say the outcome, though, and I love talking to people who like haven't been quote unquote trained or things in mindfulness, because I think a lot of times whenever you like go to school for or get trained by, it kind of puts parameters on things, and people asking questions who might not have had that always opens up a new perspective. And it's like, wow, like I haven't thought about that in a long time. But I think the outcome is when you're in the present moment, you're able to more fully enjoy what's going on around you. You're not being, caught up in the past or the future or what's going on. You're able to, by being present with yourself, you're able to understand exactly what you're going through, how you feel. And then it kind of leads for me to like a wisdom and like what you need in that moment and the opportunity to actually do it because you're not being distracted.
Yeah, but I think what's interesting about this outcome you're trying to get to with mindfulness is that it's almost like a peace and calm and not thinking about trying to be mindful, which is like, do you just all of a sudden look back like, oh, like I haven't, what is that still like? How do you recognize it? Or how is it just like, oh man, if I feel happy and I feel peaceful and I feel good, that this is just the space that my mindfulness has helped me to get to?
I think it's a mix of both, but I think mindfulness is a tool. And so whenever things happen that inevitably throw you off course, like life is always going to throw waves at you, but the goal of them is to stay centered during all of this. And that's a quote, I want to say Rumi or somebody I just saw that I really loved. And so it's a tool to help you be able to maintain your peace and calm no matter what's going on around you. Because that's really what yoga is too. It's like no matter what pose or whatever's happening in your body, you're always able to maintain your breath. And that's the only thing in life we can actually control is how we respond and react to things.
And then as you practice mindfulness, what is it that is disappearing from your mind or from your life? And I'm asking that because I'm thinking about, on a scale or a spectrum here, how do you kind of know, like, if you're like, I'm mindful versus, sometimes you don't realize how much chatter is going on in your head or like that type of thing. Like, what is it that you can see less of and know that you're doing better?
Yeah. So ways to kind of measure progress, like with this mindfulness practice. So one is like less, and you mentioned chatter, it's like mental chatter. So less chaos, I guess, in your head. Or things, I would say even like noticing when you're triggered, when things happen, like your anxiety about certain situations or just in general, like a general state, your general state is probably more peaceful, that there's less mental chatter, that you're not feeling quite as anxious. And if you are, that you're able to recenter yourself in the moment and it kind of dissipates slowly.
And I wonder what tools there are, saying that because I can't quite think of anything off the top of my head. Maybe there's stuff within like apps and things we've talked about before, but if there's a tool to measure kind of like how mindful you are or where you are right now, in a way where you can kind of know, or like exercises, maybe even to recognize like how much chatter do I have going on in my head? Because again, I feel like a lot of times you don't realize it until maybe for me, like once I start meditating, then you realize like how hard it is to, be still or be, not think about what you want to do next, etc. And so maybe I'm answering my own question in that in the practice of it, you just recognize how easy it is to get distracted maybe, or how easy it is to, lose focus. And maybe your goal is to have longer periods of time. Is that fair? Like while you practice, if you can kind of go longer periods of time before now you're like, oh man, what time is it? Or something like that.
Or even you mentioned a story one day when you were like, I don't want to move. Like, I just want to try to be still. And then you notice that like all of a sudden your back itches and your shoulders aching and all these things start happening. It's like I start having a twitch, like a weird twitch.
Everything started twitching.
And that's like a personal story, but like you answered your own question. I think these mindfulness practices are ways to see how mindful you are. And the goal of mindfulness is not, and a lot of people think it is, to sit and completely clear your head. That's not what it is. Like, that's a cool benefit, but that can become escapism. And we've kind of talked about that before, like using these things to run away. But it's just learning to sit with your shit and be okay regardless.
Okay. So then to that, then as we talk about what to consider when you're practicing this, you know, I guess as you start, or if you're not new to this, like thinking back to when you started trying to be mindful, you know, it's kind of what that starting place is. I would say probably like start to jot down, or if this is a new journey for you, maybe having a mindfulness journey or something, but journal, where, you know, you kind of jot down how hard it was, or maybe what those feelings or thoughts were when you tried to practice. And then maybe over time, that's a good way to gauge, you know, how you're feeling or how things have changed. And I think another measure or outcome to mindfulness outside of during the practice is perhaps the fact that out and about, when you're not, quote, practicing, like trying to focus on it, right? I think maybe some of those things that come up while you were practicing, you might be more aware of in other circumstances and things. And so it'll be cool when all of a sudden you're like, oh, like, you know, connecting dots to thoughts or things that have come up while you were, you know, in that time of really trying to pay attention. And so maybe it's a way, like if you start to notice like dots just connect a lot more in your, you know, being out and about life. I guess that's mindfulness brought to life in that way, because that's keeping you kind of in the present and also reflecting on those same types of things.
Exactly. And mindfulness practice is just that, a practice for life. Like life is the show. Like if you're training for a marathon, like in essence, like life is the actual marathon. So it can be easier to be nice and still and peaceful and thoughtful when you're at home in your nice little Zen room doing whatever. But when you're driving your car and somebody cuts you off, it's a lot harder to do that and to keep that pause. And you've mentioned the pause before. Like if I came at Lex crazy before she like reacted, she has this pause where she is aware of what's going on. She's aware of herself and then able to make a decision on how she wants to respond or react. That's another way to note your progress. So that, and then the last one that just kind of popped up in my head is triggers. For example, if somebody says something that used to send you off into a rage or used to like decimate you or break your heart or really hurt you, and now they say, and it's kind of like, okay, cool.
But what does that
or
mean?
Your bounce back time is shorter. For example,
what does that mean? It's different in your mind now, or different with you now?
Yeah, it means that your practice of learning to sit with things and not letting them overwhelm you is getting better. So stuff that used to feel like a tidal wave, and I
you're not as effective.
You're not as effective. And I think about like, for example, like maybe like like with past relationships, like romantic, particularly, like you might be really bothered by stuff with them, or you might be holding on to a lot of hurt, but now it's kind of like, And I think that that's kind of another way to gauge, is looking at triggers and things that sometimes might feel overwhelming, unbearable, and now it's kind of more bearable. You're able to maintain that peace and calm.
Okay. So are we ready to go into how to practice it?
Absolutely. So now that we've kind of discussed what mindfulness is, it's not meditation. Meditation is one facet of mindfulness, but learning to be present. I thought it would be helpful to share some tips to help you build your practice. And the first one is to be intentional. And that means be intentional with your time, space, and your effort.
Yeah, just like with your time in your planner, you're planning for your meetings, you're planning for things that you have to do. It's very easy to think like, okay, I'm gonna start meditating, or I'm going to be mindful, or I'm going to go to the gym, anything, right? And if you don't carve out time intentionally for it, then what you're saying is, you know, sometimes I might do it, sometimes I might not. And, or you can see yourself getting to the end of the week and you haven't really done that thing. And so a big part of it, I think, is really structuring a time, especially if it's something new for you, to put down a time and try to make it like the same time every day, but like setting aside a specific time that you know you are going to practice meditation, or let me keep saying mindfulness, because maybe it's your morning jog or your morning bike ride or something, and the particular space and the effort. So like really define it for yourself, if that makes sense. And what are some ways you can help define it for yourself, whether that should be active or, you know, maybe sitting down and meditating?
I would challenge you to try different ways. So I would challenge you to sit still and to meditate. I would challenge you to try one. If you take morning walks with your dog, like this time, instead of being on your phone, maybe leave your phone at home and you try to just be present in the moment. Or when you're reading, like whatever you currently do, the easiest way to integrate a new habit is to
I
build
would
it
argue
into what
against
you're
the
doing.
reading though, because I feel like that's kind of like a combo. Like you're really like reading something and processing
Agreed.
it. So maybe like, but when we say like running or walking with your dog, that makes me think like usually, when you're running, you're just having thoughts in your head. So it can still be a time to pay attention to what those thoughts are, or to really catch what you're thinking about and looking around instead at, that tree and, that sign and things like that. But I would say I wouldn't maybe, and even journaling, I don't know if that's being mindful, because I think you could journal about your mindfulness, but I would like to say you should keep it in your head. What do you think about that?
Well, I wouldn't say keep it in your head. I would say those are very fair points with journaling and reading, because you can just be aware, like you can be in there having a conversation with the person in the book or having a conversation with yourself instead of just sitting with.
Yeah, even like listening to music and stuff, that I would not consider that mindfulness, because
Exactly.
you are having like interaction with reading, listening to some other words or something else.
Yes, I would agree with that, but it's not just in your head, because you can mindfully eat, and there's a really cool, like if you type in mindful eating and Google it, I'm sure there's a YouTube
like
video.
Something I need to look up.
It is so freaking cool. I got to do it at USC. They have like a USC mindfulness club, which is awesome. And one of my professors from the B school is like actually one of the founders. He's not a monk, but like he is I won't say world renowned, but at least a Los Angeles renowned mindfulness professor. But he also teaches in the business school, which is really cool. And it's an awesome mindful eating thing, but you're experiencing it with yourself, and someone's just kind of guiding you through it. So it is different, but it is with your body. And so I would say you can be mindful with your body, but for things
You can have guidance,
yeah,
but not. I think that's different than like consuming or having
music.
like a back and forth.
Agreed. So when thinking about how to build a practice, being intentional with that time and with that space. And if you want like to build consistency is the best way. And so looking at your current routine, like how can you build it in? If it is in the morning, walking your dog, if it is like as soon as you get out of bed, going to do that. You had a great point about thinking about the space when you do it. And I don't know if you want to share that or want me to.
Oh, sure. So I think when it comes to the space where you go, that it should try to be the same space every day. And we talked about this in our environment episode, I believe, like your personal environment, that it's important to know, like, your mind is already associated with sleeping in your bed or other things. Your mind is associated with work if you're sitting at your desk, perhaps, and wherever you are in your home, right? And so one thing with your space to consider is to get up, if this is something in the morning, I guess, and to go to a space in the same space every day, to almost condition your mind to know, when I come here, this is where I'm really focused in on my own thoughts. And to also make sure you block out all that extra stuff. So whether you have noise canceling headphones or what do you call the little things you stick in your ear to cancel
Plugs.
out noise? Yeah, plugs. Try using one of those sleep covers. I've done that before. Like if it's sunny, because you know how you can kind of still see like the red through your eyes when you close them. Don't have the coffee going in the morning yet. Like for me, sometimes I would try to cheat and I'll be like, all right, let me get started. Like make the coffee and then go sit down. And like you really get distracted because you're smelling coffee or, you know, like your stomach's starting to react to those outside things versus you paying attention to your mind. And so it's really like just blocking kind of everything out. But I would say that about space, making sure it's a separate space that you can kind of dedicate, and that could be like your special spot.
And I like that a lot. One of my clients is building a Zen room in her house, which is
That's
how I
cool.
use it. And I like love it. She's like really excited about building this really thoughtful space for her just to grow and heal and do whatever she needs to do in that space. I would also challenge you, like whenever you're doing that, to sometimes think about possibly doing it like out on your balcony if you have one or something like that too, because it's like almost a challenge for me. So I do have a special space that I do meditate, and I think it's really important to have that. And I also challenge you to maybe mix it up sometimes just to see if it's different and to see how it's different and how that could affect your practice too.
Yeah, that's a good point, because before we got to this thinking about like which way you should practice, it's, you know, paying attention to what you were able to do, and that's why I guess it was important we talked about outcomes too. So, you know, like, all right, what is it you're looking for to know if this is good for you or not? But with everything that you do, try it and see how it goes. But also I think, I don't know, that's kind of difficult because sometimes it's just you and like, it's just hard to actually be mindful. And so I think if you're a beginner, and correct me if you don't think this is fair, but I think if you're a beginner, you really should try to start with a like sit down somewhere, you know, and not maybe not necessarily like trying to push it and do everything, different ways, but try with the sitting down first, because I think low key that's the hardest thing to do. And at least that will give you a good point of like where you're at with the chatter and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I agree with that 100%. And I would say when trying different things, like maybe try a week straight of just sitting. And then the next week, try integrating with running and just noting down the differences, like writing down in your mindfulness journey, like what are the differences? Did I feel more mindful? Was I more distracted? Like which one do you like? And your body, if you take a moment to listen to it, it'll tell you. You'll know. Mm-hmm. You'll know where you need to be. You just have to listen to yourself. But that's the point of sitting down and being mindful.
Okay. So once you've created a structure for yourself, some things to try, time to space out, now it's kind of what are those tips for actually being mindful? Like in this time, what can they start to do or what should they be looking for?
So the first thing is just noticing how you are, like what comes up for you. Like when you take that time to sit down, you've been intentional about it. Now you're sitting there. What's coming up for you? How do you feel? What does your body feel like? What does your heart feel like? Where are you? And how do you feel? Like that's the first thing I would say, tell you to look at.
What types of things can come up or what types of things come up for you?
Everything. Sometimes it's like, imagine throwing a million ping pong balls in like a box and just shaking it around. Sometimes my thoughts feel like that. My mental chatter just goes crazy the moment I try to sit down. And then I notice I start to judge myself because I'm like, man, I'm over here supposed to be being mindful. And now I'm just mad because I'm thinking about all these million things and I can't stop thinking. And I start getting really frustrated with myself and I start judging myself. And so that's what comes up and that's what can come up. But it's funny, in some guided meditations at the end, they're like, okay, now let your mind begin to wonder. And then my mind is so still and I'm like, you have got to be kidding me.
That is what happens every time. Like, when you're so supposed to be focused, they try to be everywhere. And then they say like, give yourself permission to think about anything. And you're like, well, shit, I'm here now.
Crickets.
You're like, I'm mindful now. What's up?
What's up? I don't even need to do that.
That's so funny. It's like our bodies try to be like anti or I don't know. It's like what you're trying not to do. If you're trying not to do something, like you do it. And so it is something to like really learning to lean in. And with the not being judgmental part, it's like even the thoughts that come up, I feel like can be judgmental if you're thinking about yourself, or if your thoughts maybe are, oh man, I know I need to do this thing, or thinking about projects or other people or work. To catch yourself, look for those judgments, like look for you making things in a bad or good and saying like, oh, but I'm not going to judge that, or just catching it like, oh no, that's kind of being judgmental. Let me come back. And I think that you just start to catch it. You realize how judgy everything you say is. Like, I feel like it gets really bad actually. Or when you feel like, you may feel like you're a positive person, but it's like you kind of start to notice like this is a lot of like lack talk or kind of negative talk, I think a lot of times in that. And for me, when I have tried to be mindful, there has been times that I noticed like all of a sudden it clicked to me like, man, all my thoughts were around like things I'm working on, which kind of goes back to some of our previous convos about like, is it really good to be this like, oh, I just want to be better type person? Or like, where's the line between that being like the problem and then those things actually not really being a problem? But like, just to think about all the things you're working on and then all of a sudden you feel like overwhelmed or stressed about that. And it's just too much. And so like one day when I finished, like I remember writing all these things down and I was like, I'm recognizing that I'm actually framing a lot of my thought processes negatively instead of positively. So like, sometimes I would just really remember that and then be able to look at it and like try to switch that around, or at least identify like if I say that or hear that again from myself.
Yeah, and I really like that. That's also a great tip is if you notice certain thoughts keep coming up or the way you're thinking things is to write it down so you can look at it. But that's the second step. So the first is to be intentional. The second is to observe without judgment. Like your goal here is not to beat yourself up any more than you already do. It's to just learn where you are and give you a point of awareness.
Yeah, I think you're right because it gives you keys about like what you think is important. And then sometimes that doesn't match with what I say or what I want it to be. So then you recognize like where you need to go or where you need to get, or okay, I thought I was here, but really my thoughts are all keeping me right here. And so it's really like exploring for yourself, which doors you kind of need to break through.
Exactly. It's about just being aware. And so when I said like figuring out where you are, that's giving you inclinations. Like even if you say one thing, like this is really where you are and how to move forward. And I like Alexia's thought. So whenever you do notice yourself being judgy, whenever you notice that you might be coming from this mentality of lack or even having like a negative perspective about something, it just gives you a chance to think about it. And then afterwards, maybe try to change it. So now you're more aware of like, speaking from lack, oh, I ain't got it, fam. I still ain't got it. Everything always goes wrong, whatever. Now you can start to change that. I don't have it yet, but I'm getting it, or I already have it. And just noticing where you can change those things to be more peaceful and to feel better and more in alignment.
Another tip, which you kind of started to give earlier, would be to make sure that however you practice mindfulness, that you do take time to be still. And stillness is, I think, so important. I've recognized more recently how important it is just because I didn't realize how often I was not doing it, which is like never. And so it's like, oh, that sounds mad simple, but then to actually pay attention and realize how much personally I use movement as a distraction from present, as a distraction from feelings, as a distraction from uncomfortable something, then now I realize like, oh man, like I have to really like, even like on FaceTime or like doing anything I do personally, like I always have to be like, oh, I'm going to sit down. And then I sit down and then my friends make fun of me because 2 minutes later I'm like walking in circles again. But like, I'm actually, very conscious of it now. And so it's amazing how hard it is to stay still when you're really thinking about trying to stay still. Like I would literally challenge y'all to sit down and like time how long you can stay still, or even try to for like a minute. And it's so hard. Like I promise, like Carlie said, everything gonna start itching. I promise.
Out of nowhere, it's gonna be like, I didn't even know I had it. Like, what is that? And like, your head's gonna start tingling, and like, might start having a twitch in a muscle. It is wild, but it's so important. And I'm one of those people too. I like to move, and even with my mindfulness, I like to stretch or do it when I'm doing yoga and doing different things. When I first started doing yoga, I thought Shavasana was stupid. And Shavasana is the end of yoga. And if you've never done yoga, you lay there in Shavasana, which is dead man's pose. You're literally laying on your back, your feet fall open and your palms are up and you're just supposed to lay there. And I was like, why am I here? Like, oh my God. And now it's my favorite part of the practice. That's where the work is done. Like yoga just gets me to a place. Like I started doing yoga because I felt like really sad and I was going through a breakup and I was going through this life transition. And just the work in my body helped me to process my emotions, because emotions can get stuck in your body. But then at the end in Shavasana, all these times I hated it, I just started bawling. Like one day I just really just like released and I was like, oh, I get it. Like this is the moment. Yoga, like that's cool. These poses aren't the work. This is the work. Like this moment when you have to lay there with all of your emotions, with everything that's going on around you and still be present. You can't run away from it because you're in the middle of a class. Like that's when I realized that's how important stillness is. And I would say for the pandemic, everybody that I've talked to, like all my friends and checking in on everybody, has had a lot of growth and revelations in different areas because they've been more still. And this because we physically couldn't be out the house and couldn't do different things. And so when you've been running from things for so long, when you finally stop, they all smack into you. And you have a chance to be face to face with all of them. So I challenge you, even if you're like me and you want to do like running meditation, running mindfulness and all these things, at the end, still take a moment to be still and to let the work sink into you. I promise you'll come through and be like, wow, I had no idea that I felt like that, or wow, I didn't know I needed to heal from that. And it's just amazing how those things come up.
Mm-hmm. And I think considering that when you're doing an active mindfulness, like yoga, for example, remembering that it's not just like you're being active and thinking about your thoughts. The mindfulness is in the mindfulness of every single movement. And so that's different than like if you're practicing mindfulness, if you're trying to meditate, for example, and be still, when you start moving and stretching, then that's probably not that same type of like mindfulness with the body, but it's you trying to like, I want to do something. I think even with that, like catching yourself where, is it mindful if you're really like feeling your heels hit the pavement and trying to, feeling through your body versus, when you really try to sit still and like everything is moving around. So it's different. And even back to the mindful eating, thinking about things like even washing your face. Like I feel like when you're more intentional and present in every movement, it is like way more care into it. And for some reason, like with that 60-second face washing rule, for example, they said it's not about how long you do it, but the fact that you're counting and you're being so intentional in what you're doing that I don't know how to explain, but it's like you're putting more into it. You're putting more love into like what you're doing and into that movement, and you're doing it better. You're taking better care of yourself, and your energy is going into that. And so mindfulness, I feel like bringing it back to real life is being able to do everything in that space to where I'm into this right now. I'm into this thing. I'm into this conversation right now. I'm not doing other movements, grabbing my phone, doing this or that, because I'm still am present with you or in doing whatever that thing is. And I think that's now tying it back in, because you kind of brought up that thought that that's really the outcome you're looking for, is that you don't have trouble focusing on like what you're focusing on. And that is very helpful in practicing to be still and be in that moment.
Mm-hmm. And I didn't even know about the 60-second face washing thing, so now I'm gonna try.
Oh
that.
yeah, so LA Beautyologist is her name on Twitter, but she did a video on, and this is maybe like really old now, maybe a year or longer, but she did a video around, wash your face for 60 whole seconds. And what everybody realized is everybody's like, oh shoot, this changed my life, washing my face for 60 seconds every time. But the main thing is you don't realize how quick you really do it, that it's really only a few seconds. And until you really count, you're like, damn, 60 seconds is a long time when you're really trying to do it. Like, what's up? And the same with being still, the same with mindfulness, meditation, all those things, is that, you're going into it and you're letting yourself be it and be that thing at that time and enjoy it, and not, not just a quick thing to check off the list, but like to do it for really 60 seconds. It just makes you more mindful of what you're doing. And I think that's really what the key ends up being. Again, not just the actual time.
I started doing that with lotion, and oil and stuff after I get out of the shower, because I realized I was like slapping it on and moving around. I was like, what if I took my time and just was here and present with myself? And it feels so much better. Like I feel so, I don't know, it's just more relaxing and peaceful. And that actually brings like up to my last tip when you're building a mindfulness practice. So like, being still, not judging yourself when you're noticing what's coming up, but giving yourself space and grace. And what I mean by that is it's a journey. It's not a one-time thing and now we're done and yay. You just have to allow yourself to show up how you are, as you are in that moment. And that's enough. And that's why I kind of shy away from saying there's an outcome or a goal, because we're such an outcome measured society. Like everything I want to know, like if I'm getting better, is this, what's my grade? Could I do this? Could I do that? But it's really allowing yourself to show up however you are in that moment. And then the outcomes come from you providing yourself this space and this grace. There's no wrong way to be mindful. There's no wrong way to love on yourself and to listen to yourself and to give yourself what you need. And so just giving yourself that same space and grace with your practice.
Yeah, that's very important, because you're always going to be getting better, or sometimes it feels like you got it and then you don't and you got it. So it's just a matter of continuing to practice, because every time you recognize something else like out in the world, it's just like it feels like a victory, just to be aware of things that you haven't been aware of before. So that's how we always grow and just continue to learn more about ourselves and what our purpose is in life, period.
Mm-hmm. And yoga continues to humble the F out of me, because some days I can do really amazing poses and my body is just open and there. And then sometimes I can't do basic poses and things hurt and I'm like, what is going on? And so and like when people are like, oh, you're really good at yoga, it's like, actually it's not, you can't really be good at yoga. You just kind of show up how you are and let go of your attachment to the outcome and realize like however I am in that moment is exactly how I'm supposed to be. And that's enough.
Got it. So this week, we want you guys to practice mindfulness, be aware of it, time yourself, see how long you can sit still, time yourself, see how long you be washing your face.
0.3 seconds.
Just like, and then you know what, like even to have like a goal for a day to like try to be mindful, like because it is like with what we say, everything you do, right? Putting lotion on your shower, everything, like, can you really enjoy like everything that you are doing, every pencil stroke, every sip you take of this beverage or whatever it is, and just really try to be there. And I think it makes a difference because it's like, that's what life is supposed to be, how it's supposed to be lived. So think about that this week. Let us know how you practice or what your thoughts are about it. And we look forward to hearing that on your feedback.
Yeah, at Carlie's Couch on Twitter and Instagram, at Lextopia, at CC Fierce on Instagram. Yeah, savor it. I challenge y'all to savor things this week, like when you're eating, when you're washing your face, all of it. And then let us know how that goes. And if you have any tips or like any cool lessons, I would love to hear them.
Okay. And then do you want to ask the question of the week?
Yeah. Question of the week is, what's the most valuable lesson this time has taught you so far?
But what is this time? Sorry, because I was trying to read it. That's why I didn't know what that meant.
I was thinking like this, I would say this year, like this pandemic, like this time. Like
okay. These uncertain times.
Yes, these uncertain times.
Okay. The most valuable lesson that this has taught me, I would say, is to honor and strengthen and edify my team members. For me, I guess, because when things get difficult, or if there's a lot to do, or if things are overwhelming, it is good to have a team that is very solid and that things are moving. When things may be difficult for you, or if overall things are difficult for people, the fact that they're strong like keeps things moving forward. So for me, maybe I'll say I've learned the importance of having a very involved team.
Yeah, I love it, and I also love the word edify. It's just, I don't know, I love that word. There's a lot of lessons that I've learned, but I think right in alignment with this episode, to slow down, to honestly slow down, to enjoy these moments, and to, actually take the time to follow up with those people who I was like, yeah, we gonna catch up, girl, and then we don't. If it's people that I really care about, so you've been pouring into your teammates. Like I've been, working on my friendships, like calling people and really just being able to spend that time, because we all have slowed down. So, and learning to rest and slow down. What have y'all learned during these uncertain times?
Let us know. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye, y'all.